Those are the key headlines that we're tracking for you at this hour. This is the show where our team at CNBC TV 18 gets you the top stories of the day. I'm Ritu Singh and you are watching Reporter's Diary. Well, straight to that big story that we've been tracking today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has indicated that the 28% goods and services tax slab would be pruned further and would be restricted to only a few select items, such as luxury goods. Now, Modi was speaking at a Republic TV event in Mumbai earlier today, and he said that the government is working to ensure that the GST on 99% of the items is kept at a slab of 18% or less. Now, do remember the Congress has been for a long time clamoring for the highest GST slab to be capped at 18% instead of 28% currently. In fact, last year, Congress President Rahul Gandhi, while campaigning for the Gujarat Assembly elections, had tweeted that the Congress would reduce the GST rate to just one slab of 18% if it came to power in 2019. Now remember, Modi's comments also come at a time when the monthly GST revenue collections are far below the asking rate of 1 lakh crore rupees per month. And this fiscal itself, there has been only one occasion when the monthly GST collections crossed that 1 lakh crore mark. That's not all. ICRA also expects that a shortfall in the government's indirect tax revenue kitty is likely to lead to a downward adjustment in the central tax devolution to states in the current fiscal year. Now, amidst all of these developments, we learn that the upcoming meeting of the GST Council may not result in any big-ticket rate cuts being announced. Sapna Das, who has been tracking all of these developments, joins in with more. Sapna, take us through what is expected in the next GST meeting.
Well, we are clearly given to understand that both the centre and the states are being cautious as far as taking forward any major rate cut proposals for the upcoming GST Council meeting on the 22nd of this month. The caution from both the centre and the state side particularly comes in terms of the revenue concerns which are well known by now. So as of now, we are given to understand that there is no major proposal yet for the GST Council to consider as far as rate cuts under GST goes. As far as the cement sector also is concerned, a point over here, we are given to understand that, any lowering of rate for the cement products from the 28% to the 18% bracket will have sizable or rather significant revenue implications both for the centre and the states. Around 7,000 to 8,000 crores could be the loss that we are talking about annually. So given all of this, there is an indication that possibly no major rate rejig could be considered by the council. But what may unfold is some kind of rate rationalization, which has been an ongoing exercise as far as GST is concerned. Some of those items where the input rate may be higher than the output rate, some kind of parity may be brought in for those items, but we are clearly given to understand that even that exercise will be more or less fiscally neutral. A few hundred crores here and there could be the fiscal impact. This is what the understanding as far as the rate issue of the GST Council is concerned.
All right, Sapna, thank you very much for bringing us that report. Now, a day after the newly elected Congress government in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh waived off farm loans, Rahul Gandhi has promised a nationwide loan waiver. Speaking in Parliament today, Rahul Gandhi said he will not let the Prime Minister sleep or rest till he waives off the loans of all farmers. He also went on to say that if the Congress is voted to power in 2019, it will provide a complete farm loan waiver, and also added that opposition parties are united on this issue.
मैं आपको यहां बताना चाहता हूं कि कांग्रेस पार्टी और बाकी सब विपक्ष की पार्टी एक होकर नरेंद्र मोदी से कर्जा माफ करके ही दिखाएगी। हम खड़े होंगे, हम उनसे लड़ेंगे, 1 इंच पीछे नहीं हटेंगे, उनको सोने नहीं देंगे, रात भर सोने नहीं देंगे जब तक हिंदुस्तान के किसान का कर्जा माफ नहीं होगा।
2019 का चुनाव सामने, आप तो कह रहे हैं मोदी सरकार करवा लेंगे, लेकिन अगर नहीं हो पाया तो क्या
नहीं,
आपका ये प्रमुख वादा होगा कि आप लोकसभा चुनाव में भी 10 दिन के अंदर माफ करेंगे?
देखिए, ये तो आप पता नहीं कैसा सवाल पूछ रहे हो। ये तो मतलब गारंटीड 100% है। अगर मोदी जी नहीं कराएंगे तो हम कराएंगे। अब हम नरेंद्र मोदी पे ऐसा दबाव डालेंगे, और सिर्फ कांग्रेस पार्टी नहीं, हिंदुस्तान का हर किसान, एक को नहीं छोड़ने वाले हम, आप सबको लेकर हम कर्जा माफ करवाएंगे।
Well, clearly in the last couple of years, many states have announced farm loan waivers from Uttar Pradesh to Maharashtra to Karnataka. Governments cutting across party lines have moved to provide relief to the farmers. Now, the cost of these recent loan waivers is over 2.1 lakh crore rupees. Here are some economists on these loan waivers as instruments and the impact that it could have on the finances of the states and the country at large.
Farm loan waivers are a very suboptimal way to deal with the agrarian crisis. We've seen in the past leads to a lot of moral hazard, more pressure on banks. We're undergoing a deleveraging process. Here's the good news. I think there is a way to address this in a more efficient manner. We've actually moved in agriculture from the economics of scarcity to the economics of surpluses. Right? And so the policy mindset has to change from scarcity to surpluses. What we should be doing is exporting some of these surpluses, have a systematic trade policy on exports and imports so farmers can plan and farmers can export. We have to stop this race to the bottom, this competitive populism of farm loan waivers and higher support prices and move to where the farmers have moved.
We will have more deficit coming because of the current consumption. We will be financing the current expenditure but not the capital expenditure. Now, what is going to happen is, as of now, there is no number. We are looking at somewhere around, maybe around 40,000-50,000 crore worth of farm debt waiver, and that is going to have a straight impact on the capital expenditure which is being incurred by the states.
I think these states will not be able to borrow from the market. So if they're not able to borrow from the market, obviously there will be some way of trying to balance the revenue expenditure match. Obvious problem in this case will be expenditure compression. This debt waiver actually leads to a situation whereby you will find if no other solution is found given out to address the problem of rural distress. I think in 2 to 3 years you will again find this loan waiver coming as a solution. Because this actually leads to an increase in the NPA, vicious the credit culture, because until and unless that account is not cleared of NPA, they will not get fresh loans. So agricultural credit also starts to decline.
Well, it truly is the season of waivers. Even in the state of Gujarat, the state government has waived off electricity bills to rural areas. Now, this move is likely to cost the exchequer about 650 crore rupees, but over 6 lakh households are expected to benefit from this move. Wall Street markets witnessed a sharp recovery in the second half of the day after weak global cues translated to a weak start. Nifty reclaimed the 10,900 mark after a gap-down opening, and the Sensex recovered more than 300 points from lows to end with gains of 0.1%. Broader markets outperformed slightly as mid-caps gained about 0.2%. So while the Bank Nifty rallied about 0.5%. Surbhi Upadhyay joins us now with a detailed wrap of today's trading action. Surbhi, the bulls continue to dominate the second half.
Well, Santa Claus might not be showing up in other equity markets, but he's surely here in India because the rally simply continued. So optically, you'll see a very narrow or small gain on the Nifty and the Sensex. But look at the chart and the intraday recovery is something that's a talking point today. And once again, India outperforming most of the markets, whether it was our neighborhood in Asia or even Europe at the time at which we were trading. So where did the gains come in from? Once again, fairly wide base. So you had some of the metal names moving higher. For instance, you had stocks like JSW Steel, Vedanta move up. Sun Pharma was the key gainer today. A couple of auto names like Mahindra and Mahindra. But really, if I talk about the big push, it came from the banks and from the financials. Big rally and late rally in stocks like HDFC Bank as well. Some strength in ICICI Bank, which was up over 1%, SBI, Bajaj Finance. So basically, the financial pocket of the market was fit and fighting. If I go down below, then other key gainers included names like L&T, RIL, Maruti, all of these stocks batting for the bulls. Where was the problem then? IT, clearly, because of perhaps the rupee movement acting as a bit of a sentiment negative once again today. So Infosys under pressure, same for Wipro or a stock like Tech Mahindra. This was a bit of a rough pocket as we look at today's trading action. The other stock that took a big hit on the chin was Z Entertainment. There's a lot of talk about how the new TRAI regime is going to play out when users really have the right to pick and choose their own channel or the channels that they really want to watch instead of going in for the whole bouquet. So Z continues to be in the doldrums. Mid-caps, not a bad day at all because lots of stocks flying around. I'll give you some names. Interglobe Aviation, as in the afternoon, we had that sharp fall in oil prices. That stock took flight, 5% on the higher side. The end of the year play is definitely there. Whether you're looking at a stock like United Breweries, GM Breweries or Delta Corp, these stocks were up between 5 and 6%. Capital First and IDFC Bank, ahead of the merger, are getting excited. All the permissions and approvals seem to be coming through. So these were some of the names that were up and about as well. All in all, another good day on the street.
All right, Surbhi, thank you very much for bringing us that report. Now, from the markets to crude then, oil prices continued to tank for the third consecutive session on reports of swelling inventories and forecasts of record US and Russian output combined with a sharp sell-off in global stock markets. That took a toll on crude prices today. Manisha Gupta is here with more details on these developments. Manisha, take it away.
Well, very high volatility, and we have the crude oil prices trading at a 15-month low. Some bit of that pressure also came in from the global equity market sell-off. But on the other side, we anyways are tackling higher supplies, increasing supplies, especially from bigger producers like the US, which is producing at record highs of 11.7 million barrels. Then you have Russia producing record highs of 11.4 million barrels. And there has been an increase from Saudi Arabia in sense of output in last couple of months. While of course, OPEC and allies have decided to cut output by 1.2 million barrels starting 1st of Jan 2019. One, the market doesn't think this is enough, and two, it is delayed. It starts only on 1st of January, while all of these producers today are supplying at record highs. So that is what really has been bothering the market. And then, of course, it hasn't just been about supplies. You also have the demand concerns. The markets anticipate that the global demand growth for 2019 would be slower than what we have seen in 2018. And much of these concerns are coming in from Asia, which has been the major reason that you did see increase in demand for 2018. And then there are some concerns from Europe as well, and that has been pulling the prices down. The expectation is that as we move forward from here, it is going to be the Fed meeting outcome, the currency play, that will also impact the crude oil prices. And then, of course, as the volumes thin down, you will be looking at exaggerated moves continuing for the crude oil prices. So one thing that everybody agrees on is that you are looking at high volatility in crude oil prices. And as we get into 2019, it is a lot of uncertainty, whether it is about the global supplies, demand, the Iran waiver, the involuntary cuts. And of course, if the prices continue to be on the lower side, it will also in turn start impacting the capital expenditure into the sector. So it clearly is a cycle, but at this point in time, it is a correction, pressure on the prices and high volatility that everybody is betting on.
All right, Manisha, thank you very much for bringing us that report. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping addressed his nation earlier this morning to commemorate the 40th anniversary of China's reform and opening up policy. Now, his speech in Beijing had emphasized on the fact that the country has a right to pursue its own path going forward. And he went on to say, and I quote, "No one is in a position to dictate to the Chinese people what should or should not be done," end of quote. Now, this even as the Chinese president promised more reforms and denied that China wanted to dominate the world. Emily Tan filed this report.
China marked the 40th anniversary of reform and opening up, and in his 90-minute address to the nation from the Great Hall of the People, President Xi Jinping said today is an important day well remembered, as it marks a major turning point in history. And in the commemoration, they are gathered to review and take stock. She said reform and opening up is a great revolution of Chinese people and the nation, propelling a quantum leap in socialism with Chinese characteristics. China has turned from a closed country to one embracing an all-around opening up. It is exactly 40 years to the day that Deng Xiaoping opened a Communist Party conclave that launched China's reform and opening up. This was a highly anticipated speech from President Xi Jinping, but there were no new specific measures announced, only to say that this will be a long process and each step of the reform process will not be easy.
We have introduced more than 1,600 reform initiatives, cracked many hard nuts, and navigated through dangerous currents. Reform is going deeper across the board in a swift but steady manner, with breakthroughs on multiple fronts.
President Xi quoted Mao Zedong saying, "If we don't make reforms now, modernization will be doomed." He also made reference to Deng Xiaoping and former presidents Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao. President Xi came to power in 2013 and initiated his anti-corruption campaign. He went on to say that the government will resolutely clean up corruption. The speech comes amid mounting pressure for China to accelerate reforms amid a trade war with the U.S. and the impact that's having on the Chinese economy. She said no one is in the position to dictate to Chinese people what should and should not be done, but there was no immediate reference to the United States. The commemoration ceremony also included the awarding of Reform Pioneer medals, those who have made great contribution. Of the many acknowledged included Lee Kuan Yew, the first Prime Minister of Singapore, Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, Chinese basketball superstar Yao Ming, and the executive chairman of Alibaba, Jack Ma, alongside that of Tencent, Pony Ma. I'm Emily Tan in Hong Kong. Back to you.
Here's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive from the Dale Street. We learned from sources that Rakesh Jhunjhunwala may reduce his proposed investment in Star Health. Do you remember Safe Crop Holdings, which is a consortium of Jhunjhunwala, Westbridge and Madison Capital, had bid for Star Health at about 6,500 crore rupees. Now, of that total amount, Jhunjhunwala's commitment was for around 2,500 crore rupees earlier. Let's go across to Yash Jain for more details on this story. Yash, why is it that the big bull is looking to trim his proposed investment?
So essentially, Ritu, two major impediments have hit this particular transaction when it comes to acquiring Star Health Insurance. The first one is that one of the investors out of the consortium, which is SafeCorp, the investor being Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, has decided to reduce the capital which he had committed towards this particular transaction at the time of signing the definitive agreement. Just to take you through the deal contours, essentially the deal was valued at 6,500 crore rupees. Sources back then had indicated that Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in this particular company, that is Star Health, would be holding around 39%, which value comes up to 2,300 to 2,500 crore, and that number is expected to be reduced from Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's end. Now, as far as the second impediment that I'm talking about is concerned, of course, this shortfall in terms of the capital commitment will create some sort of vacuum when it comes to the overall valuation of 6,500 crore rupees, and in all possibility, another source has indicated that the consortium itself, which is Safe Crop Holdings, will renegotiate the entire valuation of 6,500 crore rupees. So that amount is also likely to come down from the amount which was promised and made a part of the agreement, which is 6,500 crore rupees. So in all possibility, of course, there would be some more renegotiation, reconsideration, which will essentially stretch the timeline as far as the deal itself is concerned.
All right, Yash, thank you very much for bringing us that report. Now, the government is targeting 8 crore LPG connections by 2020 under the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. The cabinet has now widened the scope for LPG beneficiaries with an aim to achieve this target. LPG connections will now be available to all poor households which are not part of the current list of eligibility. Anshu Sharma is here with more details on this story. Anshu, what are the changes that are in the offing now?
Well, the new addition to eligibility criteria is that any beneficiaries which are not part of SEC or socio-economic caste census list of 2011 can now avail LPG connection if they provide a ration card, bank account statement, Aadhaar number and self-declaration of being under poverty line. The scheme Ujjwala was launched on May 1st in 2016 in a bid to connect poor households with clean energy. The idea was to give 1,600 rupees per connection support by the government and rest about another 1,600 rupees to be paid upfront or in installation by the beneficiaries. The target is to connect 8 crore households by 2020. Of that, 5.8 crore households are already connected, and government support of 12,800 crore is already committed. Considering 2019 is the year for general elections, CNBC TV 18 also learns government is pushing for 5 kg LPG cylinders, especially for consumers under Ujjwala scheme, to increase affordability and refills. In the last 2 months, government has received encouraging figures for the 5 kg cylinders of LPG. About 1.05 lakh customers opted for the smaller cylinder and 1.4 lakh refills were done in the last 2 months. Not only that, government has also reached out to WhatsApp for providing services for refills. The oil marketing companies are working out modalities and are expected to tender for an agency to manage WhatsApp and missed call services. The average refill under Ujjwala scheme is 4.3 refills a year, and 7 refills is an average for across India. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Anshu, very much for bringing us that report. Now, speaking of social reforms, the World Economic Forum has released its Gender Gap Report for 2018. And this report shows that the gender parity across the world has stagnated, especially when it comes to participation of women in the workforce and politics. Now, according to this report, at the current rate, it will take 108 years to achieve gender parity across different sectors. When it comes to participation of women in the workforce, it will take 202 years to close the gender gap. Also, India's ranking has remained unchanged at 108 this year. This as wage equality and similar work has improved and tertiary education gap has closed for the first time ever. However, progress has lagged on health and survival. And the other key highlights from the report is that India has been ranked 60 slots below Bangladesh, which has been ranked 48. Topping the list is South Asia. Now, a year after sweeping over Hollywood, the Me Too movement made its way to India in October this year. Actors, filmmakers, corporates, politicians and even journalists were called out on social media for allegedly sexually harassing and assaulting women. In a matter of weeks, Me Too moved from being a hashtag on social media to a common topic of discussion, even offline. CNBC TV 18's Kevin Lee and Parikshit Luthra report on the imprint that India's Me Too movement left on the year gone by.
2017 was when the Harvey Weinstein scandal hit the headlines. The Hollywood producer was accused of sexual assault by not one but several actresses, and Me Too started trending globally. Come 2018, and Me Too made national headlines back home.
Nana Patekar's behavior on the set was, he misbehaved on the set. He was being very aggressive. He was pushing me around. I complained about him. My complaint was not heard. Then he demanded to do an intimate step with me on top of it.
The spotlight was on Bollywood when actress Tanushree Datta accused Nana Patekar of sexual harassment on the sets of a movie in 2008. Subsequently, she filed an FIR. This wasn't the last. Actor Alok Nath, director Sajid Khan, comedian Utsav Chakravarti and director Vikas Bahl were also accused of sexual harassment. As Bollywood grappled with Me Too allegations, brand consultant Suhail Seth and author Chetan Bhagat were also accused of sexual harassment.
While the Me Too movement caused many heads to roll across professional circles, the sphere of politics was also hit hard.
Veteran journalist, author and union minister MJ Akbar was the biggest name to face allegations. It started with journalist Priya Ramani on Twitter, who shared her story about MJ Akbar and quickly found support from at least 20 other journalists. The BJP and the centre were silent for a week after the allegations surfaced, with some in the government saying that the accusations did not pertain to his tenure as minister. Akbar's position, though, soon became impossible to defend, and the PMO finally asked him to step down as minister. However, Akbar has filed a case of criminal defamation against Priya Ramani, which is being heard in a Delhi court.
While many who spoke out are still to get justice, 2018 will be remembered as a year where sexual harassment at the workplace became an important topic of discussion. With Parikshit Luthra in Delhi, in Mumbai, Kevin Lee.
All right, now Manchester United has sacked their manager Jose Mourinho today, and the move comes after United's worst start to the English Premier League in 28 years. Now, after 17 games, Manchester United is languishing at the 6th position in the table with a 0-goal difference. The club also announced that they will appoint a caretaker manager for the remainder of this season. This is the third manager to be sacked by the club in just 5 years. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Reporter's Diary. Thank you very much for watching, but do stay tuned. Money, Money, Money will be up next.